Hello, everybody. Last day of GM this week, and we have our special guest Matthijs Holter again with us, this time to show some newer games instead of talking about the old ones. Just on the side, we spoke with Jason Morningstar on Friday, and he mentioned that they still, in his group, play Archipelago regularly. So it's and if they have an idea and they want to figure out if that's if there's a game behind it, sometimes they just run it on Archipelago first as a first playtest. So it's still living, it's still hitting. That was nice to hear.
I'm sure he has played it like 4 or 5 times as much as I have. I think I might have I probably have played it maybe 30 times, I think. Possibly more, but I think that's about it.
It seems like he really likes it, and he's maybe even hacking it once again to see something. So it was interesting insight that what's going on. Okay, then and they were set to talk about 2 games that Matthijs is working on currently. I'll pass the steering wheel to him, and we'll just be looking on the chat. So if you have any questions, shoot them. We'll get to them at the end, but if some of them refer to what is being talked about, we can pick them up.
So yeah, I had for many years I didn't really design much. I made the Doug 2 playtest version and was pushing that to a couple of publishers that might be interested, and there was some interest, but then I had, I went through 2 divorces and all sorts of stuff in just a couple of years. So it was a hard time to be creative, really. I was trying to keep some sort of family together and some sort of semblance of normality, and that didn't work either. But then the mojo kind of disappeared. I wasn't really able to focus and make new things. But then over the years, things have lightened up, and then when I least expected it, I suddenly got a flash of inspiration, because a year and a half ago, my friend Ole Peder, who I keep mentioning, one of the authors of Itras by, he was writing some setting material, on a Discord, just for a competition or a thing they were doing about a strange Caribbean island called Ogule. And I really liked it. I like most of the stuff he does, and I was following it very closely, and I started contributing a little to the Ogule setting in tiny bits and pieces. And then we had a beer, and I asked what he wanted for his birthday, because his birthday is late winter. And then he said he wanted me to make a game for his Ogule setting, and I was like, yeah, well, fuck yeah, we're doing this, And it was so fun. Like, I just sat down and I had so many ideas just bubbling out, and I designed one version, and then I redesigned, and I think the third one was the one that I actually printed out and I gave to him for his birthday in a little metal box. I had to find a nice box, so I bought some candy, took the candy out, stripped the paper off, and used the box for his game. And then we actually played it. We set up a campaign, him and me, and a guy called Emil, who's also very awesome. And it turned out to it actually worked, surprisingly well. Partly because of us, because that kind of magic where you are trying a new game that nobody really knows, and you also have a new player on board that you're getting to know. These processes kind of melt together. So you get to know the game, you get to know the person, you get to try out the dynamics. So it can become a very memorable experience. This was the very first Itras by campaign was also like that. We were getting to know new players and getting to know that game, and so it kind of resonated with that whole experience as well. So it was great. We had a wonderful spring trying out Ogule for the very first time, and we also kept it. We kept it close, because there's a temptation when you have something new, when you have a new concept, that you want to talk to everyone about it and post online and just go public. And that has killed some ideas for me earlier. because it kind of jinxes it. You release that tension. It's like if you have like a very hot gas and then you open it up and it spreads around the room and suddenly there's nothing. So we just kept it close and intimate to ourselves. So we were a secret little club playing obecne for quite a while. And it was great. And after we finished that campaign, we started a new one. And along the way, I was just iterating, changing all the time, like printing out almost everything anew every single time we played. So it
When you
changed.
say, sorry to interrupt, when you say finish a campaign, how long of a game do you mean?
Yeah, so all these games I'll be talking about today are like 6 to 9 session campaign games. They are short. They are strictly formalized in how long they last. Very predictable, and they all have the same basic method, which is currently called Uguliba, which is the name Ugule connected with the name of another game, Sakaliba. So we use Uguliba for the generic term. Uguliba is the system. So I was thinking I could maybe show you some cards from that game. So okay, so the thing about all these games is they have 2 card decks, right? You have the scene cards. This is just the background for the Ogule scene cards. The design is Ole Peder did AI for this, and it came out amazing. So the scene cards are the one deck. The other deck is called the drama cards. Oops. Here's some drama cards from Ogule. So drama cards are a little bit like action cards from Itasby and Archipelago and stuff like that. And in the early versions, we used them pretty much like Ita's resolution cards. You have the yes but and a no and, there are more details. But we started adding and playing around and changing them a bit as well. I'll come back to that later. The scene cards, though, are very new in the way they work. Because the scene cards, let me see if I can find, yeah, here we go. So the way the game works is we all take turns setting scenes for each other. So, if we're 3 players, then I will set a scene for maybe you or the third player. When it's your turn, you'll set a scene for somebody, etc. And those scenes are based on the scene cards you have on your hand. So you have usually a hand of 3 scene cards. You pick one of them. It says which character and some ideas, and then you play that scene out. So you'll be directing. Someone else will play their own character, and then a third person will usually play a secondary character. So that's not so uncommon, but the thing about these scene cards is that they are your character sheets, basically. These are your character components. So when I have your scene cards on my hand, I usually have your goals or your relationship cards, or a mix between them. And these cards right here are goal cards. I hope you all know Norwegian. That will make it easier. So,
There is one
so
guy that says he does, but the rest of us don't.
So when you make your character, you choose and you customize your cards. So this one, for instance, is a goal card for Ogule. In Ogule, these cards were divided into suits. So this is a power suit. Down here, you see the skin suit. Those themes or those suits kind of didn't survive it for other games, but it was fun in Ogule. So since this is within the power suit, the goals would be connected to power or violence. So if you picked a goal card like this, you would write your character's name, and then you want to say, what's your goal? What is blocking it? How do you know you reached it? And why is this something that you want? And there's some keywords at the bottom here. They're based on the theme. So it's like corruption or sexual capital or high technology. So maybe you have a character. Okay, just give me a very simple character concept. Like, how old are you? What gender? What language?
Let me be a 20-year-old woman. What else did you need? Occupation?
Well, a
or
language or a country of origin or something like that.
let her be French. And she's
Okay,
a
20-year-old
yeah.
French woman. And you are on this mystical Caribbean island called Ugolea. We don't know why yet. And then you're going to set up a goal card. So let's say this is a goal connected to power. Then for this, let's call her Michelle.
Yeah.
Right. Michelle, you're 20 years old. You're French. You're on Ugolea. So what's your goal?
Oh, seems like she might be looking for her father, maybe. Or do we connect it to the power theme, or is it?
Maybe your father's a powerful person. That's good
Yeah.
enough, you know. Okay, so your
Okay.
father's a powerful person, and what's blocking you from finding him? What's standing in your way?
She probably she's estranged, so they maybe don't even know each other. Yeah.
Nice. So how do you know that the goal has been reached? Like, well, what's the scene where we see, okay, she's made it?
Yeah, I think that is when the father looks at her and recognizes his daughter in her, and she has to somehow make that happen.
And then the final question is, why do you want this? Why is this important to you?
Yeah, I wanted to say, simple love, but let's twist it. It's a revenge thing. She wants a revenge on him for something.
Oh, I like
And
this.
the revenge doesn't work if he doesn't know that it's his daughter who's getting back at him.
Yeah, it's no fun if he thinks it's a random stranger. All right, so now we have one of Michelle's goal cards, right? And you'll probably be making, for a campaign, you'll be making 2 goal cards usually. And you will be picking 3 relation cards.
So just to step back a little. So if I'm playing Michelle, I'm making those 2 goals card for her.
Yeah.
And these cards will go to other players so they can set it up.
Exactly. So you will have 5 cards that are completely tailored to your character. 2 goals and three relations is what I call them usually, like secondary characters. And they also can have these kind of custom questions, so you make them kind of your own, you know.
And then the player has the control on he creates that, but then he releases that control to other players to realize them in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that interplay between control and release is crucial to these games. It's like that in most GMless games, but this thing where it's very clearly defined in the game what you can control about your character in the game and what others can control. And these clear definitions are very important, those boundaries.
Cool, because that also lets you sort of control your narrative, but then be surprised by it as well, in a way. I like that. I like when the GMless game surprises the one who's in control of the narration.
Yes, that's exactly the thing. So, okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. Just a little more about the scene cards, because this means that if we're 4 players, we will have 20 of our character scene cards in a deck of cards, a scene deck. And there's a few other scene types that you can also add. So you might have like maybe 30 cards in a deck. Now, this deck is what decides how long your campaign will be, because you'll be playing through it 3 times, right? Which means that every single goal you have, every relationship you have, we will encounter them exactly 3 times during the game. We don't know exactly when, but like within each 2 to 3 sessions, that's usually how long it takes to play through all the cards. So, and this kind of causes a natural act progression, because the game, of course, it escalates along the way, and relations develop. You know, the first time you meet your estranged father from afar is not going to be like the second time, and the third time is definitely going to be different. You know. So
Is your goal to it is the goal for the players to, because we set up how the how do we know that the goal is reached, that the father recognizes the daughter? Is that a task for the players to envelop that on the third run? Or do we follow the fiction? Are there restrictions?
Yeah, there's no mechanical restrictions. We do follow the fiction, but those questions are mostly to get a clear image of what it means, because the goal cards they've gone through many iterations, and to begin with it was very vague, was a little difficult to know your motivation. But when you have that image, like this is what my character wants, then it's much easier to go towards them. But what I usually say is the goal cards are they're not player goals. Like it doesn't matter in any single way if you reach your goal or not. You know, it has no consequence for the player. But it's more like a fishhook to drag the character through stuff. You know, because if you have a static character with no goals, they can sit at home and watch TV, which is great. But you know, it's not something we play. But when you know she really wants like to get revenge of this bastard of her estranged father, then she's going to go for that. And then this will take her through like, you know, a lot of challenges, ups and downs. It'll take her to different locations. She'll meet different people. And we will see what she's like as a character. You know, we'll see her develop along the way and get to know her. So that's the whole purpose of the goals.
So we observe them in the most crucial times of their story.
Exactly. And the relationships, which is a second, you know, the relationships are really the most important part of it, because that's when you see people, you know, being vulnerable, being angry. That's when you try to get the emotions out of the character, you know.
And what do you define there with the relations?
Yeah. So here's an example. This is a relationship. Let's take this one connected to skin. Because skin is about status, appearance, race, of course. Like in Ogule, that was very important because Ogule is a very multiracial island, old colony and all that. So with the relationship here, first you say which character it belongs to, of course. So this one would belong to Michelle. Then just a name and description. What's the relation to you? And then the last question here is who's the most liked and why? So that varies between different cards, but then
And that refers to the other player characters.
Yeah, this refers to a secondary character that we set up for Michelle. So this might be you could have your father as a card, or it could be someone completely different. Maybe you know, maybe your boyfriend who's back home. You know, then you would describe him or her, and what the relationship is like. You know, maybe they're infatuated with Michelle while she's growing a bit cold. And then the last question: who's the most liked and why? So maybe your boyfriend is liked much more. You know, maybe Michelle's not so popular back home. Maybe she has daddy issues and it's a little cold. Who knows? Well, her boyfriend is the life of the party. You know, so then this gives you a little dynamic setup to start with.
Are the questions differ? Because you mentioned that it's the skin. I imagine there are different categories for the cards. Are the questions different as well?
Yeah, the questions are different. So if it's a power relation, then the question is, when do they have the power in the relationship and when do you? So yeah. Any questions from the audience, by the way?
Not yet. I think everybody is just swallowing what the game as we go. Waffer says interesting concept, and I think Maciek would be astonished as he loves the idea of story structures. Yeah, we have a podcaster, and he's indeed trying to bite into to make run games and make games that follow the story structures, like 3 acts, and you know, where it pops up, where it pops down, where's the dominant of it, and that's a really nice concept to organize yourselves around it. Though in a way it might be as well, yeah, it takes an getting used to setting up those specific scenes, but on the other hand, it's really hard to maintain order of story structure in just a free-form role-playing back and forth when you sit on the couch and watch TV, because that's what that's what turns up. Yeah, there's some sacrifice to the freedom that you have in general, but then I can imagine that the stories must be nail-biting and really captivating. Waffer asks if character can fail their goal. Like the card for Michelle, revenge will come up 3 times. Does it mean that she gets 3 chances to get her revenge, or that the 3rd card will surely make her get it?
Now, what happens is completely up to the player and character. So there's no rule saying that you have to, you don't have to confront your dad in the 3rd act. But chances are big that you probably will be, because by then we're kind of waiting for it, And there's no rule about whether you make it or not. Like, does he recognize you or not? We don't know. That's going to be up to what happens on the spur of the moment, because the dynamics, and this is kind of one of the important parts, takes me to the drama cards, because scene cards are played like in a very structured way. Like, it's one scene, one card, played by the director. We know the main player. Drama cards are completely off the table. It can be anything. And the rule for drama cards is anyone can play a drama card at any time. So even if you're the director or the main character player, you can play a drama card. You can play it on somebody else's scene. You don't have to be in the scene. They are just for players to have fun. This is the ADHD part, by the way. I love this part. It doesn't matter. You never have to wait for your turn. That's like one of my major loves for this game. So, okay, so I see I was joking around a bit at the time. So here are some drama cards, some examples, and these are from the skin theme. Again, not all games have these themes, but in Ogele it's quite specific. So some of these will be familiar-ish to players of the other games, like a yes but card. Somebody manages what they try to do, but they end up with a lower social status. So at this point, I was connecting it to the themes, right? Or yes, somebody has the right appearance for the situation, and they manage to do what they try. Or no, but somebody fails but makes new friends. But then there's other cards like dark clouds, like a conflict is escalating on the island, or racism, somebody's being racist. Or, of course, at that point, somebody in the group had been complaining about their hemorrhoids, which is why I made this joke card. Somebody has pain in their butt. So you can play these cards at any time, and they can really be anything. And this one is called Christ Intervenes, which we tried out. It was kind of fun. And of course, one game called Role-Playing Games. So in Ogele, we were messing around and joking a lot, and trying things. But the point is, though, if you have, let's say, then you are in Act 3, right? And Michelle is going to confront her dad, and we don't know what's going to happen. He hasn't recognized her yet, and she's hoping that that'll happen this time. Depending on how you play your character and how the director sets the scene, depending on how players play the cards, and you probably have someone playing your dad. Like, from sentence to sentence, this will change and develop. We will build on each other's things. We'll throw in curveballs. So we don't know. There's no single mechanic that decides what happens. There's fictional positioning all the way. There's third narrative voice all the way. So through this interplay, through this dynamic, we end up in a situation that none of us predicted just like 1 minute earlier, which is the excitement of the game for me. But still, though, because of both because of how the game is structured tightly with who decides what, and because of the choices that we made with what kind of cards are actually in the game, there are more constraints than you might believe. It's not like you can just do anything. It's like you can do what's on the scene card. You can do what's allowed for your role. When you play drama cards, you can decide what happens exactly with what's on the card, but you can't really do you can't do things outside it, but that's not really what the rules are encouraging you to do. So while it's extremely freeform, because in theory you can say anything, and if it doesn't contradict earlier statements, it happens, right? You can say that a UFO lands on my head, and if it doesn't break with anything, that will happen. But then, since these rules, they slightly maneuver you into thinking that this is the focus. They play with your attention. So your attention while you play will be on what the other players are saying. They will be on the specific cards you have in your hand, and you will be so fucking overloaded. Sorry, you will be so mentally overloaded with all this information that you're not going to come up with random things because you're bored. You're going to come up with things within these little avenues that the game sets for you. You'll be thinking, which of these 3 cards do I want to play? Or what do I want to respond to what's being said by this person, right? So you will be guided into something that works, that builds up the dynamics, and that escalates tension.
I think that answers sort of the question from Four Sticks. Is the story structure baked into the rules, or is it does it emerge from the narrative? How much is it based on techniques, on player techniques? Yeah, it's also somewhere in between. So it's in the cards, but also players alter the cards, so they have some control, but within the structure. And then as we go, because then also what I sometimes as you go with this character-oriented stories that, oh, I know, next scene I want to do this and that, but then card comes up and it's the other goal for you, so it's a different scene that you've imagined. And I like that it also like sometimes drags the carpet from below your feet, and you have to stay on alert and think out of the box. Yeah, so it's playing with how much control you have, and sometimes you have to just adjust to what the game dictates.
But the one strict rule is that the game, nobody can tell you what your character does, except if the drama card specifically says so. If it says like, okay, this character will be damaged, then they can damage you. But otherwise, no. You know, even if I set a scene for you saying this scene starts with Michelle at a restaurant, you can say no, Michelle is not at any restaurant. She hates restaurants. You know, you're allowed to veto that. But coming back to the whole, I wanted to say a little about the act structure, because there's at least 4 things supporting that. One of them is you know, our expectations towards act, but the other is that the drama cards are different from act to act. You see, this is a drama deck for Act 1, while in Act 2 and 3 we might have different. You know, in Act 3 there's more. First of all, there's more strong yes and no. There's no yes but or no and. There's no building of things. It's like, this is where stories end. You get a clear yes or a clear no.
With those ones, how do you actually use? When do you need to use a card that says yes or no?
This one's called yes. Somebody uses violence and manages what they attempt. So maybe there's a scene. Let's say that Michelle she sees her dad over there. He's in some important business meeting because he's become a powerful politician. He's on the other side of a fence. You narrate how Michelle she's trying to, you know, talk away past the guards. And then I play the card. Somebody uses violence. And I say, okay, at this point, Michelle, your control breaks. You can't stand it. You are going to punch one of the guards, which you do. And through this surprise, you actually manage to create a scuffle and you move past them, you know. That's one example.
Okay, so also the text on the card matters because we know that there's violence, but also the yes and no matters because we know if she failed because of it or she moves forward because of it.
Exactly. So I could have played like other cards like no and, where you fail and you're unlucky. In addition, you use some of your life force. So I could say, no, you're standing there, you're watching your dad go by. These guards are laughing at you. One of them spits on the ground. You walk away despondent. You have lost all your cards, you know. So, point being,
and
then
for
that.
one more thing for the drama cards. Are they also influenced by the players? Do we set them up at the beginning, or are they set like in the game? Are they pre-made, or do we also make them as we go?
They are totally pre-made. And there's different decks, 3 different decks for the different acts, and everyone draws from the same deck. So you kind of know what kind of cards the others might have. But okay, so I'm talking about what makes the game structured into the act, right? One is player expectations, second is drama cards. The third is that some of these scene cards will only appear in certain acts. For instance, the breathing room, this is a special kind of scene card that you only have in the early acts. These scenes are about other people somewhere else doing something completely unrelated to the characters. So they are about like setting up the environments, making the world believable and plausible. They're very good for the early acts. They don't come back in the late acts, so that adds to the structure. And the fourth thing is, now I'm giving a sneak peek at one of the other games I was talking about, which is in Sakaliba, where you have specific scene directions for different acts. Let me see if I can find the right card here. So this is in Sakaliba, which I'll come back to. Here you see directions for a relationship scene, saying that if it's the first act and you're playing a relationship scene, then you choose, okay, either show the positive thing in the relationship, give some external pressure, reveal a secret, or relive a shared memory. So the first act is about showing the relationship and possibly introducing pressure. It's about building that feeling and getting to know the relationship. In Act 2, you might play out conflicts or power dynamics. In Act 3, it's about force them to take a choice, show the consequences of the choices, or let them lose the relationship. So while it gives you a lot of freedom still to play, and you are allowed to take, you are allowed to use directions from Act 1 and Act 3 if you want. It still kind of helps you, if you want to follow the structure, if you want to build it up, it suggests how you can do the build up towards resolution in the end. But again, like if we want the, like, say it's Michelle meeting her boyfriend in Act 3. We could go for like, oh, she's going to lose her boyfriend, or we're going to have to force a choice. But then maybe the feeling around the table is, yeah, no, let's have them relive a shared memory, Third act, let the poor woman have some peace, Then you can do that. So these are very much part of building up the act structure. So yeah, I'll come back to that in a moment. I think we have some questions here.
Yeah, there was a question just to make sure if one act would be going once through the scene deck. Right? Do you go through full deck, and that means that the act first is done?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And between each act, you can also sometimes you tune the deck a little bit, especially with relationships.
So then you take out the Act 1 cards, put in the Act 2, maybe put something more. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe also one of the relationships wasn't so much fun. You take that card out and you put it in.
That's also a nice perspective that you don't have to set everything in stone. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So 3 acts. Yes, you play through the entire deck 3 times. Yeah. All right. So I've been talking a lot about Ogoliba or Ogole now, right? We tried a lot of things in it. Some of these are experiments that didn't really last. These are inspiration wheels for setting scenes. You have 3 wheels inside of each other. You spin them around to create random connections. So
I see. Super cool.
So here, for
But it
instance,
didn't work out?
Well, we ended up not using it so much. I use it a bit because I like fiddling with things. I find it fun, so it might come back. So here, for instance, if you're setting a scene for someone, you can, okay, so the middle wheel says, oh, it's a rival. This is a power wheel, by the way. So it's a rival, and they offer you military power. All right. And then, of course, the catch is that it will cause international conflict. So I don't know how easy it is to build a scene from that, but then in the right moment, you will find like new connections and new ideas from it. And of course, you can spin it many times to see. So they're fun to play with, but they're not actively used in the other games right now. Yeah, we did a lot of stuff with this. It was fun. All right, so we worked on Ogule for a while. I did the game design, Ole Petter did the AI and text. And then we were talking about how we want to publish it. And the first thought was we did not want to publish internationally. We wanted it in Norwegian. Also because as soon as you release something to the American public, then people can pick it apart over nothing. It's a real fear because, for instance, this game was dealing with race, you know, it was dealing with sexuality. Like in a lot of Latin American cultures, transvestites are a big part of the setting. Of course, there was homosexuality. There was also like religious tension, and we also had this kind of, we played it for fun, right? So we didn't do the American thing where you have sensitivity readers and everything has to be very subtle and everyone has to be treated the same. You know, we were playing around and having fun. Everyone was a cliche, you know. So we weren't sure what to do with it, but we didn't want it exposed to the entire world straight away. We didn't want someone taking one picture out of context and then, you know, dogpiling on us on the internet. So we decided, let's make 20 copies in Norwegian and sell to friends and family. But then Ole Peder has this habit of producing children, and that comes in the way sometimes of having time for this kind of stuff. So he has 2 little kids now, which are wonderful kids. And we end up just not having time to actually sit down, finish it, cut it apart, send it out. You know, that just wasn't happening because it's very much like it was our project together, and it's not something I can sit and do by myself. That wouldn't feel right at all. So this one is still just kind of lying there and waiting until we have time. But then in the meanwhile, I wanted to try some different stuff. So I went on and wanted to see if I could use it for a different setting. Which I did because I had the idea that it could be modded quite easily. So the first setting I came up with was Baghdad in the year 1000, and this is because I was at the point I was reading a lot about the Middle East. I was reading a lot about trans-Sahara slave routes, which is a very specific subject. But I was actually not aware of the long and huge history of slavery internally on the African continent. Because of course I'm since childhood I was raised on the knowledge of the European horrors like what we inflicted on the African continent and the transatlantic slavery. You know, everybody knows about that. You learn about it as a kid. And but then like in my late 40s, early 50s, that's when I heard about the trans-Saharan slave trade, which like millions of sub-Sahara Africans and Eastern Africans, especially, were taken to the Muslim world and sold on markets there, and treated in some ways extremely horribly. Like even compared to the slavery that we know about, this was insane. And that kind of stuck with me, the way little boys were castrated in the desert, and the way girls were just, obviously raped all the way along. Like the Muslim world imported 2 women for every man during that time, and we are talking millions and millions of people. So this was not like small. This was a part of society, and that's what really intrigued me reading about old Baghdad at that point. Also, the way it was so integrated. Because one thing about European slavery is that it was quite compartmentalized, right? It's like, okay, we have this island, we have this farm, we're going to put people there, we're going to work them till they die, and they're going to be there, we're going to be here. And that is very clear. In Baghdad, you had like 12, 15, 20 different types of slaves, and some of them were work slaves, but that wasn't the main thing necessarily. Like the Zanj that were put to empty the swamps around Basra, though they were African slaves and they were worked to death, basically. But then you had the Kiyans, which were beautiful women that had salons, that were social influencers, that had a lot of power and influence. You had the concubines, which would have varying influence depending on who they were owned by, how they were treated, which country they were from. Because Eastern Europeans Eastern European concubines had a much higher status than others. And then, of course, you had the Sakaliba, which are Eastern European military slaves. And you had the Gilman, which were, I think at that point, Turkish young boys stolen or sold by their families, trained up to be elite soldiers. The Gilman were a huge force in the Middle East at that time, because they were strong, they were powerful, and they would sometimes just kill a sultan or depose him if they didn't get their will. So slaves were integrated. Slaves were part of everything. You would meet people who were former slaves. There were almost like NGOs, like welfare organizations set up by rich people to help assimilate former slaves and get them into work again. It was like everybody was doing it. Everybody knew about it. It was through all parts of society, and that really fascinated me because that was insane. And I tried picturing it in this Baghdad year 1000 game, but that it turned out to become too much of Arabian Nights, 1000 Nights. Like it felt like a storybook, and I really wanted to make it real, so I set it in modern times. So
if we can stop for a moment before we dive into the game itself with this research, there's a question from Waffer, I think, that might be interesting. Where does all the info that you get come from? Because it seems like you've read quite a lot at this point. And for other games that you do you also have this like a spark of inspiration that you read? So where do you get your research? How much? And does it always the case? Do you did, for example, the same for Okaliba? For the Ogule, it was...
these are good questions. So I think the research actually, the research and the game design comes out of a shared interest that sparks, right? So I have ADHD, like mentioned, and I get this hyper focus sometimes that something is obsessively interesting. So when I started reading about the trans-Saharan slave trade, I was reading this thick book about trans-Saharan slave routes. Very detailed, extremely specific, painstakingly, too much information. And I was going through that kind of literature, a lot of that, because the subject fascinated me, like at a bunch of levels. And I just couldn't let it go. So I think that's what happened, was that, okay, since I was reading this, I wanted to make it into a game. I wanted to play it, I want to play in that world and see what happened, I want to understand why on earth and what. So it wasn't like I had a game idea and then I did the research. It was like, I have this stuff happening in my mind 24/7. Let me process this. Like, let me try to make a system to understand it. Basically, it's mostly about trying to understand these things, categorize, and see what it's like. simulate to a certain extent. So I think the only other game I've done so much research for is a game I wrote in 2004 called Draug, which is a Norwegian folklore game. There I was also reading a lot of first-hand sources and travelers' guides about Norway in the 1800s, and once again a lot of really boring stuff. I was sitting in Australia, I was trying to learn to surf, and then I was reading this stuff in libraries. So it's mostly when I have an interest that is obsessive enough, then I read a lot.
And does the interest come first usually, or sometimes it's idea for the game and then comes the research and so on?
With Draug, I think the idea came first. I wanted to make a Norwegian game, for Norwegian people being Norwegian. And then with Sokkaliva, it was the opposite. I would never have made this game if I didn't have that historical interest first. So yeah.
And it is set, you mentioned, in the modern times, a version of it at least.
Yeah, it's modern times. It is. I made up this very thin historical context that the Ottoman Empire didn't crash. It won the First World War, and that's why slavery continued in the Middle East. It's just a very thin pretext to make sure I get the world I want to play in. So yeah, this is there's a lot of AI pictures in this because I needed a lot of illustrations. So it's very much it's the Arabian influence, and there's this cyber influence. It's meant to be in a near alternative future, but you can decide a little bit how much you want to focus on the technological aspects and how far ahead it's gone. So these are pictures of characters you can play. I'll come back to that. But this is where I started using a frame card, setting the boundaries, setting the rules for the game itself. So this is one of the very first things you do when you start a game. You have 4 categories where you cross off, you tick the box that works for your group. So there's technology. How much tech do we want? Are we going transhumanism and time travel, or is it just like now? How much supernatural stuff do you want? Because Sokkaliva has the potential for a lot of supernatural events. There can be jinn, and there can be traveling through time and space. Anything can happen. You can also tone it down. And then there's sex and violence. Because I mentioned during the Archipelago talk, I mentioned that for me, in my groups and my culture, then the X card is a bit much. It's a bit heavy-handed, But talking about talking about our shared frames of reference before play is it's a good thing, because then about
expectations line. Yeah, I like that actually, and also because then you can use some general tools that are available, but then this one is fitted for the game. You as a game designer know more or less what to expect from it. So I think that's more games could use something like that. I think some of them does, but I haven't seen one that organized as you're presenting right now.
Yeah, it's very simple, and you have a few choices, and you usually pick one of them. But of course, it's mostly just to get that conversation going. Oh yeah, there's some questions coming in.
How much this game requires player knowledge of the setting?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So I hate homework. I really hate having to learn things before the game. I even hate learning rules. So I was not going to make a game where you had to read anything. So it requires 0 knowledge of the setting at all before play. You could play now with what I've told you, more than most players do going in. The thing is that the basic principle is that if something is written on a card or has been established in the fiction, then it's true. other than that, you're on your own. You can make up anything as long as it doesn't contradict things. But there's a lot of little things getting you into the setting. So the first thing you do, right, you pick characters, which means you get 3 first name cards on your hand, and you get 3 last name cards on your hand. But they, of course, they will show you a lot about what the setting's like. So here we have first name is Katarina. She's a smuggler. She might be smuggling people. Zaid is a politician. Yadrana is an expensive concubine, stolen before puberty. These are the 3 first names to choose from. Maybe these are the ones you draw. You draw randomly. Last name's Al-Malagun, which is the cursed one. Abd Allah, who is an Orthodox Muslim and the servant of God. And Al-Nasiri, which is a name that means belonging to Nasir. So you're the property of Nasir. Who is Nasir? You have to decide. So you pick a combination, right? So and this already gives you like a flash insight into the fiction. You understand very quickly like what's the vibe. This is a society with slavery, politicians. There's a lot of things going on, but there's also like hints at supernatural things and high tech.
So in a way, you can play it without any preparation because you don't have to think about the character. You get it, and with the character, you see, okay, there is slavery, there is politics, and there's religion. So you get this like a package of things to kick you off.
Exactly. Yeah, names meaning incorporated into the cards. That's also a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at how Arab names are structured, and it's very different. Like sometimes your name will just be Hussein's dad or Muhammad's mom. Muhammad. And then part of the name will be who your parents are, and part of the name will be maybe where you're from, or if you have a specific cool title, which usually only sultans and caliphs get. So your name will be like Johnny's dad from Bengal, and that's who you are.
But that's an interesting way also because that's a important frame of reference for your game, like cultural thing that is relevant there. So you put it on the cards and you put it in the mechanics sort of a character creation, and then it is in the game. It happens in the game. It's a nice way to convey it, even if players don't want to go too deep into that. It happens in the game because of how the characters are created, at least. So that's I like when games do that. They somehow sneak pieces of the theme and the culture that they speak about, not force them onto the players, but rather sneak them inside that they can do it on their own.
Yeah, you don't have to play heavily on slavery, but it's going to be in the background. But then also, of course, like what you pick here will decide very much with which themes you're going to play on. So if you're going to play like a concubine stolen before puberty, then part of your story is going to be about being somebody's slave or not, or about slavery in that respect. While if you're going to play like Robert the tourist guide, then it's going to be different. So you guide the fiction from the very first choices you make. If you play the guy called the Machine, then yeah, there's probably some cybernetics in your campaign. So yeah. Another way that setting is communicated in Sakaliba is that you don't have a map. Yeah, because let me just show you Ugule, because we really like the maps. In Ugule, the map is like this. You have a static map with a bunch of set locations, and you have a bunch of names to choose from. The locations are not described anywhere in any detail. So if you play in the Cavernas Piratas, Pirates Cove, then who knows what it's like? The first person setting the scene mostly decides what it's like.
You have
In
some amazing
Sakaliba, yeah. So I wanted to try a different thing in Sakaliba, so I used location cards. They have a picture, but they also have 4 texts. So here, for instance, the slave market card has a back and a front. So you choose between these four tick boxes. Like, is it like, okay, this one, the slave traders are standing against robots and artificial intelligence, and there's a lot of political lobbying going on. Or is it this one, a modern German complex, human treatment of slaves, hygienic castration? So what you pick for your location will affect the game, and which location card you choose to play. So you set up the setting while playing, and you learn about it, and you define it. It's a lot of fun as well. Oh yeah, I just want to go back, and I haven't played this for a while now, and I really want to go back. One of my favorite cards is the Realm of Death. When you play that, you decide what's death going to be like in this game. Yeah. I'm just going to talk.
How do you use the location cards? Are they dealt to players to play, or are they spread out as a map on the table?
You have three cards on your hand, and you play them when setting a scene. You can either use an existing one or a new one. So in Sakaliba, I wanted to make sure that there was a bit of a limit, right? And I also wanted to do it so that the city expands over the game. So in Act 1, you can only play on these 5 middle spaces. And you each have 3 cards.
It extends.
So you're not going to be able to play all the cards. This I was also playing with the idea of having locations, specific cards for specific acts, so that there would be some sort of dramatic escalation. Wow, now we're finally at the center of the universe in Act 3, you know. I didn't go for that. I didn't try it so much, but it was one of those ideas that could have been fun.
Can the game be released as a deck of cards only, or does it need some other elements for it?
It has so there's a few things you would want to print out, but it could be released with printouts ready as well. So there's actually some player info sheets that you can use if you want, like different types of slaves, of course. So you know which ones they are and where they come from, the world as it is. I asked ChatGPT to help me with their realistic set of struggles and stuff. So there's the empire, there's their external allies, there's the people they're fighting, different religions set up. But this is mostly for reference, you know. No one's going to query on this. Not everyone's going to look at it. So,
and this could probably be just another card as well, if you need like a help card.
Yeah, if you wanted to print everything as cards, you could probably do it in some way. So Kaliba was the first game where I started defining who actually does what when, and I set up this little page about it to make it very clear. So basically, as a director, you control all these like secondary characters, you know, the environment. You can do what you want with it, but you can't touch the main character that's played by that player, and important secondary characters from cards are also given to players, right? And they really own it. To some extent, they own the environment around them, anything, you know. So if I set up, like, if I make somebody play Michelle's dad, I say, okay, they can basically do anything with it. They decide who he sees, how much power he has, his background, anything, you know. It's me as a director, I just say, you do this, and then they have complete power of it. So, and here we see the drama cards coming in from nowhere. Drama cards can do anything, which is kind of the fun about them.
Just on the site, totally. What software do you use to set up your games? We are also interested in, the technicalities of how people approach that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I use Figma for this. which is mostly because we have it at work, but also because it has great support for components. So I have this area with all the different components, so I could just have the scene card and the relationship goal cards here, set up like this. And then I can clone them and customize them over here as much as I want. And that makes it quite easy to just test different designs. So if I want to change the color of all the relationship scenes, I'll just do that at a click of a button, and suddenly they're all green, which is very nice.
Yeah, we have one guy here who is all fan of Figma, and he does a lot of stuff on it. I think some of our graphics on the for the event is also from that. Thought it looked familiar, but I didn't recognize it. But yeah, a good tool is a great friend for a designer. If it makes your life easier, you can do anything you want. And nice to see how you have things organized as well.
Yeah, very much so. I was even using like different variables, because you can set up a tiny little sheet in Figma with saying that in this mode this card will be green, in another mode it'll be red. You can add translations, but then they do limit that. They limited artificially. So if you want to have as much as you actually need, then you need to pay for it. They just give you a little taste.
We live in the 21st century, after all.
It's definitely tricksy stuff. So yeah, so that's Sakaliba, I guess.
And in Sakaliba, does it use the same like goals and scenes and drama cards, or how do you guide the game forward and to what end?
Yeah, it's the same like basic core. So there's not much differences to the main game. There's one I'll get back to it. I just wanted to show these cards, which are the different power factions. At the start of the game, each player picks one faction that they can define. So maybe you choose the people, then you choose which of these 4 types the population fits into. Someone else might choose what the vizier is like, the sultan is like. And they all have different arrows showing their relations towards others. So if you pick this sultan, which is a crazy one, he'll be very suspicious towards the vizier. He will be afraid of the population. These are mostly just for background fun, for setting, but people did ask a lot, like, what is a vizier, who's a sultan, and just having these cards to start with turned out to be a fun little thing. Yeah, but there's one rule that was very new in Sakaliba, and it's these things, which are the threats. So in Act 2 and 3, you can activate different threats. These are kind of, you've seen them in many different forms, in different, like Apocalypse World has these countdown clocks, I think. It's a bit like that. Only that it's controlled by everybody, which is the fun of it. So if you have a drama card saying threat escalates, you pick one of the threats and you start it or you escalate it. And I was quite curious to see how much people would do that. But it turns out people really like making problems for themselves and for their friends. So it was very like the 2 first games I played it with, they escalated quickly into civil war, state coups, and I think connected with invasions. Like we had like 3 or 4 threats going at once, which is fun. And that also brings that, structure over time, this whole escalation thing. But it can take over a bit. So and this is like very much up to the player groups, because if you just want to play with the setting and make a mess, then you can, and it's going to be fun. But if you want to focus on the drama and the tight personal relations, then you can do that, and it's going to be fun. So you can choose a little which direction to take it. Yes, let me see. Let me take this question here, right?
Yeah. No. How much of the gameplay in your new game is based on your old freeform improv ideas? How much they evolved to accommodate the new games? Is that closely tied to the to your origins, or are you in a different place right now?
It's closely tied. I feel sometimes I'm just making the new game over and over again and trying to make it better, So, of course, if I hadn't made Archipelago, I could never make this, and it has definitely some of that DNA in it. But then I've added things and changed things to make it, first of all, to make sure it's a campaign game. Because Archipelago, you can play it as a campaign, but it demands a lot from the players. This one helps structure it more. Also, it doesn't feel so planned. Archipelago can feel a little bit pre-planned at times. Like you set your destiny points, you have your like different dominions that you can control in the game, different areas. This one feels like a free-for-all. It feels like a party where anyone can do anything. In reality, you're very structured, but it doesn't feel that way when you play. So it has more of a fun component, I think, than Archipelago. Feels a bit more gamey, but also feels like a party effort. It feels like a communal thing where everybody contributes more.
And in that regard, what's the interaction between player characters basically in the framework, both games? Because it also may seem that this will, how Archipelago sometimes is, that it's a solitary game for 4 players and the character never meet, and it's just 4 different stories connected by the background. What's your approach in here for that?
I kept that. I kept that aspect of it. It is. It's not mandatory. It's not like characters are not allowed to meet. But I do set expectations by saying our characters might never meet. It's not necessary for the story. It's not necessary for the game to be enjoyable. It's probably going to be more enjoyable if we don't let our stories interweave. But if you meet occasionally, then that's fine. And in the first campaign, somebody set one of the other characters as their relationship. So when the relationship scene was played, then it involved the other character. That also works. So, I prefer it. I prefer like having separate drama stories because you can really get to know the character. I hate when games just evolve into like, oh, this party is going to this place doing these things together, if it doesn't make sense.
And you mentioned that it's like 6 to 9 sessions, more or less. How is it structured? Because then, if you go through the deck, maybe let me rephrase that. Do you set up? We go through 10 cards on each session, and then that's it for today, or how do we count down towards the end?
Depends on the group. So if you're having a slow day, maybe you get through like 6 scenes and you call it a day. Or if you just like playing long scenes, one of the groups I'm in, we play long scenes. If you're playing quickly, maybe you get 10 or 12 scenes if you play for 4 or 5 hours. But this is very much like, for me, it's very much like a 3-hour game. You get a lot of fun, but then it's enough. So if you play too quickly, then of course the game is not going to be interesting. One group managed to get through an entire act in one session, and they started the next act, and they didn't have fun. They're not going to play again, as far as I know. So rushing it will definitely kill the game.
So, but then it also depends on your table how long it actually is and how much time do you want to spend with all the scenes and all the acts.
Definitely. All right, I have one more game I'd like to talk a bit about.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's called Avgrunnen, which means the abyss in Norwegian. And this was my attempt at being a commercial person, because I wanted to see if I could skin it and use the Lovecraft, as a setting. And these are human-made cards, by the way. Daniel Harila Carlson, a friend of mine, he makes really nice illustrations. Well, nice, you see they're little, but they're suitable for the setting. So
black metal album vibe from on a cassette.
Yeah. He also makes his own games. He plays a lot of OSR games. It's very creative, very fun. So Yeah, so this is more of a Lovecraftian thing. And there are differences between the different games. With this one, I started doing setup cards, because instead of trying to like memorize everything or read out from a rule book, it's like you draw card 1, do what it says, card 2, and you just go through it. And this helps you like set up things in the right order. It helps you like learn about the game concepts when you need them. Very pedagogical. It's this one is a keeper. I also do it in Sakaliba now. And of course, it tells you about the rituals you have to do.
That's super
But
cool because it makes the game really approachable, and I think lots of games could use a guide like that just ease you into the game step by step, and you can just let it guide you. That is a really cool concept. I think board games are really good at that, at introducing players to the game step by step, teaching them how to play. Don't overload them with stuff, and RPGs could do some learning from from board games in that regard.
yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to. It feels like a board game to me somehow. It really has, with all the physical components and all this. And one of the publishers I'm talking to is a board game publisher, and they're extremely good at that stuff. Like it's very inspiring to have those kind of people to share ideas with. They came up with a concept of putting stickers on cards. So for Avgrunn, I tried that. If your character, for instance, starts having weird dreams about Nyarlathotep, and you get a nice little sticker saying dreams about the Black Pharaoh that you can put on your character card, and then we know. But with this one, I also put stickers on maps. So if whatever entity you choose for your campaign, because you choose, is it going to be like Shubnigorath or Igolonak or whatever? If that entity starts interfering with your locations, then you can put a little stick on the map. So for this one, this is very much in development. But one thing that's going to happen is that you choose a time and a place. So this is for one of the 3 campaigns I'm running, which is set in Colombia in 1972. We made one map for that. Another group is in Oslo, Norway in 1946, just after the war, after we shot the traitor Quisling and everyone was happy. And this one is in Leningrad in 1984, which is a very different vibes. And all 3 of these are then, the Cthulhu Mythos is starting to influence things. So what we do, we put little stickers on the map, both to see, where the influence is, but also to put new mystery locations. This is very board gamey. So you have little stickers with like a temple, the Black Grove, the Dreamlands, of course. You have Celophies and Ultar and Leng, for all the Lovecraft fans out there. And you place them on your map. So in Oslo 1946 right now, we have a huge black temple growing up outside one of the mental hospitals of that time. And we have the Black Grove growing in one of the national parks in the capital. So it's fun. It's fun to put stickers on maps.
Indeed. But on the sticker side, there's a question from Waffer as well. Do you play much online, or do you play a game like that live? Because then online, it seems like it might be even easier or just more convenient with altering the map and altering the cards and things like that. What did you say about that?
So personally, I don't play much online. I played one campaign online, which was during Corona, but that was because of Corona. I very much prefer playing face-to-face because of the dynamics. But then it must be said, I haven't really tried playing one of these games online yet. But that takes me to a different thing I really wanted to talk about. So this one is a tool I'm making to play these games online. Does anyone want to join in? Like, can I get 3 people just try to log in and see if it works? Funny, because we told you were there, but then the only game that shows in the database is 4.6. Okay, so well, at least I can talk you through it. So you have your scene cards here, you have your drama cards here, so it gives you a hand. And if you're the director, which apparently nobody is right now for some reason, if you're the director, then your scene cards will be active and you can play them, and everyone else will see what scene is going on. You can also play drama cards during a scene, and then they will appear so everyone sees the current drama card. So it's meant to be simple to play. It wasn't so simple to make, but that's the gist of it, you know. So you have this, you just play the game, and then you have this to handle your cards with. Then, but then you also get a log of which scenes have been played with which characters, and which directions have been chosen. And you can also write a little note about what happened, because that's one thing I neglected to mention. It's super important for all these games to actually write down what happens. So as part of your turn as director, you will be, you know, writing a couple sentences, making a little summary, because otherwise we forget everything. But the main thing is, of course, this play thing, which also shows you which act are you in, which scene are you in, how many cards are left in the deck. And you can also get your instructions for setting scenes if you don't remember them, because there's a few steps to go through. So this is what I'm working on, and was hoping to demo, but then of course things crash like they do.
Well, fingers crossed then for the future, because it looks quite nice. We use some Shimon that I mentioned even try to play it on Figma, so you place all your maps and cards and stuff on Figma and invite everybody to participate. And there's Miro as a simple virtual table, and of course Roll20 and Owlbear and all the others. But then if your app is focused on the game itself, and you don't have all the, you know, redundant tools and other stuff, it's really beneficial for online play to be focused on it and not get all that stuff that just drags you away out of it. So
I very much want to make it, because we I'm not a designer in any way, but I do work in a company that makes, you know, apps and web pages, and user experience is like our main mantra. So I do focus very much on making it easy, making it quick, you know. So yeah, I want to make this look ridiculously simple. That's my goal.
That's the way to go.
One thing I also did was to put in so you can choose visual theme based on your campaign.
Oh, nice.
It's all very cute. Yeah.
It's nice to have a little fun with it as well, and see what's small things you can do to make it easier and make it spot on. Cool. Looking forward to it, so we can then easily share your game with us and we can play it. Waffer asked also some more questions in the meantime. As you mentioned, writing notes and stuff for your games. Did you play any journaling games? I think mostly probably these will be solo games, but involve a lot of writing.
I want to, but I haven't. Like, the closest I got was De Profundis. I think it's a Polish game, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Oh.
Letter writing game. I like the concept a lot, but I wrote one letter to a friend and he didn't understand what it was about, and then we just.
Oh.
But that looked promising. And also like what Paul Shege is doing. He's the guy behind My Life with Master.
He's now deep into the journaling games, I think.
Very deep into it. That guy is obsessive, and which I recognize, and I'm kind of wanting to try some of his stuff. I liked his. He made this game about minotaurs called The Clay That Woke, which was very interesting. Very very unique atmosphere. I loved it, although the game system was a little. I didn't quite get it to flow, but I just loved the whole idea of it. I bought a game called Horse Girl, which when I was in Germany, which looks interesting and scary. I might try that because it's so dysfunctional.
Yeah, solo journaling games often reach that direction, and I think if it's just you, you can do some crazy stuff that you wouldn't do with other people otherwise, maybe.
We have
Getting back to Sakaliba, you mentioned the group that just rushed through it and maybe didn't have the fun that they might have if they pay attention or, I mean, pay some more time to it, really. Do you think the group missed something just because how fast they did, or should they have done something else differently? Can you speak a little bit more on why does the game lose on a quick play, and what benefit is it if you pay more time to it?
Well, it's since the game is so much about relationships and being in the moment, trying to experience play. If you rush to it, you just it's like fast forwarding through a movie. Like, you can do it, but why on earth are you watching a movie? But the biggest problem is that when people do that, it's a sign of usually a sign of either not knowing what the game's about, or being afraid to attach to the fiction or the character. So if you don't know what it's about, then that's my fault as a game designer. And in this case, I hadn't set expectations clearly in the rules, which I have. But if you choose not to attach to your character or get into the fiction, then I can't help you. I cannot help you have fun. You sabotage yourself. That's it. So you have to be able to be a little vulnerable, stay in the discomfort sometimes, stay in the uncertainty, because the reward for that is like so big. That's how you actually get to have fun. So
Yeah, I would agree as well. If you just get to know your character in 15 minutes, maybe that's not that engaging. If you'll get to know them a couple of hours a day, and then you can look forward. And then also, like, I've spent a couple of hours with him today, and there's like 24 hours more to come. That's a different perspective on how to engage with the game.
yeah, if you watch a show, do you like binge it, or do you like wait, or because those are different experiences as well, right?
True. Yeah, I'm all for the binging part of it.
I loved BoJack Horseman when I was watching just one show every week. But then I think the last season or two, they came out all at once, and I binged them and I forgot them. It was not at all the same experience. Some things really need time, just like this White Lotus, my absolute favorite show. I think it has to be that way, that you wait for it, otherwise it takes it away.
Yeah, might be. Maybe that's why I also like watching the shows multiple times. Because when you binge it as well, on the other hand, maybe to be a devil's advocate on if you binge it, I think it imprints the vibe and the feeling in your head. Maybe you don't think about it, you don't think it through in the way you do if you take it incrementally. You you don't build up the anticipation, and you're maybe excited in a different way. But I get the feeling, and they stay with me if I just pack my head full of it in a day. It's a different feeling. So probably also depends on the the human being that you are. What's the best way for you to ingest
Consume your
any media? Yeah, exactly.
I also think like sleeping on something is super important, like in learning and anything and decisions, because during
That's true.
sleep your brain does a lot of integration and stuff. So watching one episode a day would be very different than 3 a day.
True. How much of the game ideas that stayed in your game design came from actual play and other people at the table? Is it just you with your Figma boards, or is it playing? Is it other people?
Definitely a lot from other people. I get ideas and questions. I do filter them, of course, because one of the great things about having done this for some years now, is I know that like it's not a, how to put it, when I was younger and like really just trying to learn it, I felt like other people's ideas were a threat to me, because I really wanted to find my own voice and like make the thing that I wanted. And it was a little hard. It can be hard to define that, you know, and to find your voice and find out what is my thing. So I really didn't like input back in the day. I just wanted people to like play it and say nothing, and then I could go back and draw my own conclusions. But now I'm thriving on it because I have much less. I have more confidence, of course, but I also have much less ego about it. Like I take in anything. Like if it sounds like it works, I will do it. And if it sounds like it doesn't work, I will do it and see if it works anyway. Because the luxury I have now is having regular groups to experiment with. And by regular, I mean like, you know, every other week with Ogule. And now it's, when I have 3 groups, I can play a new game every week, yeah, with different people and experiment and try. So there's a lot of stuff. Like there's a type of scene cards that are called planning cards that I've introduced that was an idea from Daniel, the illustrator for Avgrunn. There's a bunch of ideas from a guy called Odd Helge, who is like my main source for ideas and discussions on these games. He's been a player in several campaigns. So I get a lot of input, but it's mostly about game structure and cards and stuff like that. Not so much about setting. Although I've had long conversations with Daniel about Avgrunn specifically, because he first of all because he knows his Lovecraft, but also because he has a way of thinking about concepts and settings. He's an experienced designer and also does games, and he knows like what to think about and what to ask to get at the core of an idea. So he really helped me like find out what on earth Avgrunn was about, you know, to get a focus for the game. So yeah, no, I get a lot of input. I'm very lucky in that sense. But then also, I think one of the reasons I get that, you would think it's just because I've done this and I have a name, but that really isn't necessarily the case. I can put things out for play. People will download it, maybe look at it. They won't play it. If they play it, they won't comment. If they comment, it's just like, hey, it was nice or not. So it's about the process, which is involving people all the way and being open. You know, you have to be open to listen to it. You have to be able to discuss things with them. And most of all, if somebody gives you an idea to try, you have to try it out, you know, not just as a courtesy, but like because it's good design. This is like user interviews, you know. It's like testing things on real users. So if someone says, "Hey, we should try this card," I'll be, I don't know, but I can put it in the next deck, and then we'll see. And when they come back, they see the card in the deck. You know, they see that I'm taking the idea seriously and acting on them. Of course, that's fun for people to be part of something that involves and grows. So it's part of the play experience, really, to contribute ideas, I think.
Mm. And then I can imagine the game changes. Do you ever have that after playing with people and altering the game, it no longer you don't no longer recognize the game from what it was before, that it changed so much?
Yeah, definitely, and especially with Avgrunn and the whole Lovecraft thing. Because the first campaign I ran, that was with the same people from the first Ogule campaign, so it's Emil and Ole Peder. And the first campaign I ran was very efficient in getting that vibe of isolation and despair and cosmic horror and depression and everything falling apart and the world going to hell. And it turned out that wasn't fun to play, surprisingly enough. So we would play these obsessive, angst-ridden, self-destructive characters with no hope in the world. And when that's what you're thinking, what am I going to do this weekend? Oh, we're halfway through this fucking sludge of mud. You know, the sessions were great. They were intense. But then I ended up not anticipating them so much. I wasn't really looking forward to it. It was like, okay, I'm playing this game. Let's see what happens, you know. And at the end of it, at least one player said that, yeah, they wanted to try something else next time. So I had to change that. I really had to decide, like, do I even want to go through with this game or not? So I threw out a lot of things. I threw out like game mechanics for being obsessive. I threw out specifically that the mythos will take over and destroy everything. So in the new version, we are just seeing a tiny part of a 1,000-year plan for an entity we don't understand. So while, in this campaign that you can still see in De La Cruz in Colombia, we are playing in this sleepy little Colombian village. And there's, animals are starting to mutate, plants are taking over. We're having weird dreams and visiting the dreamlands. But it's going slow. So we're still trying to live our lives, have our relations and deal with our parents' death and all these things. It's personal drama while the cosmic horror is happening. So in this version, you choose how much you want to interact with it. And also, I wanted to draw a metaphor to social change. Like, when the 60s came to the US, how people reacted with fear or joy about the whole hippie thing. Or when fascism came to Germany, or when fascism comes over Europe right now, or with Trump, how do you react to that? Like, are you fighting? Are you joining? Or are you just trying to live your life while shit is happening in the world? So that's what this game is about now. It's the world is changing. It might not affect you directly, or you're going to do anything. What life do you choose to live in this huge context? Which I find interesting. Yeah.
Nice perspective, a nice take on the Cthulhu mythos that we are insignificant in a different way than sometimes in the books come to fruition. And can you take us once more just to put it out clearly? You mentioned 3 games. Are any of these coming out in a foreseeable future? And then if they are not, are they available or will be available for like playtest?
Okay, so Ogule, the first one, it's not coming out until Ole Peder and I have time at the same time, which might happen. It would be fun. Sakaliba, I am considering. The kind of vibe and feedback I get from publishers and people involved in that is that the game is a lot of fun and nobody will publish it. Because I mentioned with Ogule that racism and stuff is a little hard. Imagine putting a game out about slavery in the American market right now. It's just suicide, Well, it could work if you go about it the right way. It could probably sell and be fun, but then somebody would try to butcher me online. Like somebody would really hate and cancel me because I deal with slavery as a theme, and I'm a white person. That doesn't help. Also, people, and this is a very interesting take. So, Julia Ellingbaugh, she wrote a game called Steal Away Jordan. I don't know, 15 years ago, something. She's from the same circles as Vincent Baker and Emily Boss and all of them. So the Steal Away Jordan was about you were playing slaves, like African American slaves, and leading their lives, basically, trying to have a heroic narrative or an interesting adventure. And she struggled to get across to people that this was supposed to be a fun game. Like it's a game, you can enjoy playing it. It's fine. People would shy away from it because it was scary and too serious. I tried to play it, and I was being way too serious about it, and I didn't have any fun. So, shying away from the subject and taking it way too seriously, taking it so seriously that you are unable to engage with it rationally or emotionally or personally, that is just erasing the whole concept from our history. If you can't play a game in a culture of slavery, you're taking away for yourself to gain a deeper understanding, to learn something, but you're also part of this whole thing where we refuse to talk about complicated stuff. Because if all you do is cancel every single little thing that is against that makes you feel bad, that's against your first reaction. If your first instinct is just to say we can't talk about this, you can't talk about this, this is not something we will discuss, then you have erased this part of history. Like, it's that's my main fear about this whole thing. But I think I could publish Sakaliva and people would have fun with it. That was my little rant for today. Sorry. But then the last game, Avgrunn, the Abyss, that is specifically made to see if I can, make something that people will buy just on brand name. I'm going to make a fun game. It's going to be interesting. I enjoy playing it. But the Lovecraft subject was picked very much because I know gamers like Lovecraft. So if I can put Lovecraft Cthulhu on a game, it will probably sell like at least 7% more than other games. The same stuff.
Nobody has an argument with cosmic horror and elder things wanting to swallow the earth whole.
Yeah, that's great. People love that stuff.
And speaking of other designers, there's a question from Forstix. How many of the old designers scene is still doing games? How many new people came in? And which do you connect easier with? Do you have a insight on the designer scene?
Well, do you mean the old designer scene in Norway or like all around? Because I can start with Norway. In Norway, it's kind of declined a bit, but there's new people coming in. So we made a book called Nørwegian Style some years ago, and most of those people are not designing anymore. Yeah, Norway, right? Which is too bad. They just kind of stopped doing it. A lot of them are playing like traditional, boring old games these days, which I find incomprehensible. Like if you designed like a bunch of game master less innovative games like 10 years ago, why are you playing Pathfinder all the time? I don't understand. But this is the reality we're facing. People grow stupid when they grow old. But then there's new people coming in as well, doing things, and there's old people doing new stuff. So it's there's a kind of a revival in Norway now, and I'm part of it. Where we have a festival called Den Nye Våren, the New Spring, which has been held twice, and we're going to have another one in September, which is Norwegian game designers playing each other's games and talking about game design. And that's nice, that's a lot of fun. I'm interviewing a lot of people. We're trying to have some workshops, we're trying to get a whole little community going around that. Because community is important for game design. Yeah.
Sounds like it might inspire some awesome designs. And speaking of community, Waffer is also referring to our little talk on Wednesday where you said designing alone is doomed to failure and we should design as a culture. If you can elaborate on that. And he also put some context. There is I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, the 6 Cultures of Play blog post from a retired adventurer who sort of tries to make a taxonomy of how do we play games. And in Poland, it is really, it's caught on fire, and people are discussing about it a lot and trying to differentiate between traditional games, story games, OSR, and so on. And Waffer is worrying that your words might be understood as design as a part of one of the 6 culture. What you mean is your own group and your own circle beside higher divisions, and he asked if that's right.
Yeah, I think I should have used the word community in that sense. It's important to have people around you who you can talk to. I very much believe in small towns and small communities. Like right now I live in a small town in Norway called Drammen, and I think there's like 2 people here who do role-playing design and 2 or 3 people doing LARP role-playing design. But we know each other, we hang out all the time. So of course I have someone to talk to about my ideas, and people who understand the whole thing. If there were more, then it would be so easy for that to dissipate. Then I would talk to 50 different people. Nobody really cared so much because they were talking to 50 other people. So I like being in a smaller community because it gets more focused.
And
No, I
do you do?
I don't think you should design for a specific culture, but I think you should design for your friends, design for your gaming group. Because if you make something that they like, they will also talk about it and you'll have fun while designing. I'm not really trying to design for a market or externals. It's not really working so well for me.
And do you do any like work or try to organize it? How do you go about taking care of this community and your circle? Are you just lucky that there are people around you who do it, or do you make it your own?
Oh, are you still seeing the screen here?
Yeah, they're hyper fictive.
Okay, so yeah, so this is my webpage right now for games and stuff, Sakrivagun. But it's also about building community, and this is that festival I was talking about. So I'm the main organizer of this, and I'm really trying to make the third one bigger than the previous ones. I'm setting up regular interviews with game designers. I have like a mailing list where I put out news and try to recruit people to that. I'm really trying to make a lot of buzz. We even got this means money for travel, basically. So we got funding to help people fly over from different parts of Norway.
Super cool.
So we can probably get 2 or 3 designers to come here that wouldn't be able to otherwise. So I'm really trying to get things to happen there. Here's a list of the games we played previous 2 years, and it's all Norwegian games. Catchy titles like LBD 100. I'm sure you've heard of that. Also try to reach out to other game designers, and if someone needs to have this stuff read through, I will try to step up and give them a review of what they're doing, or places, anything. So I really try to be out there and just be helpful if I can. But not everybody wants help. Some people want to do their own thing and not get some old designer to look at it, and I understand that. That's super fine.
But then it also probably goes to the games has to be played, and if you meet people, you can talk about them, you can play them, and then a game won't exist if it's not played. Really.
Absolutely. Let's see. There's more questions, right?
Yeah, there's some more. Maybe because I will forget about it later on. And on topic of your games, there was a question about zombie porn from Waffer, because we played it on Friday. During our play, we had found a difference between the flowchart and the example after it. In the flowchart, the prey. So there's this hunting scene that one zombie tries to steal body parts from another. And in the flowchart, the prey gets -1 for each body part on stake, what suggests that the prey starts with rolling -1. That's getting really deep into the mechanics. Whereas on the example, prey gets first -1 only after the reroll. Do you remember the original intention? I believe it should say the prey gets -1 for each body part they put at stake, instead of prey gets -1 for each body part has at stake. They have at stake. Otherwise, great game. I sure will play more of it.
So my first impulse here is to put this into ChatGPT and ask for help, because I'm not even quite able to parse the question. I don't remember the rules or anything.
I see. But
So yeah,
maybe
I'm very flattered that people are playing this game. I don't remember the rules well enough to give an answer, but I will
maybe
actually
we
try.
can touch on it if the game was made for a game jam, right?
Yeah, it was a game jam.
Was that a quick work or?
I think maybe a week or something. I don't remember. Yeah, it's from 2013. You're still seeing my screen, right?
Yeah.
So this was actually a fantastic year for Norwegian role-playing design. There's zombie porn, of course. There's first version of Vandrerne, which later became a successful fantasy role-playing game by Norwegian standards, of course. There's Mørke Steder, which is by Kåreberg. He's a great designer. It's not out yet. He's still working on it. There's some crazy stuff that I can hardly talk about. There's Belly of the Whale from Magnus Jakobsson. There's just a lot of things happening. So this was probably one of the best years for our community in the state it was then. So we were all just doing so many things. This was the third time we had this game design competition. I'll just put a link here because this was so nice. But then after a while, I felt like things died out. Yeah. This is crazy because it shows how much perspectives change over time. I was just saying 2013 was like the best year for Norwegian game design ever. And here I am saying my scene is dead. Maybe they're different years. Maybe this is... Oh yeah, I know what happened. This date is the correct one. Because here I'm talking about 4 years ago. So I think the link I sent you is probably not from 2013, but 2008.
Okay.
I think it's 2008, the year before I published Archipelago. So yeah, so that goes to show, like, if you don't keep it alive, then it's not going to be alive. So we stopped writing games and putting online. The competition was no longer being run in 2013. Oh, this is very much like a rise and fall of Norwegian game design.
Well, a history lesson.
Yeah. Learn from our mistakes. How's this in Poland, by the way? Like, what's the game design community like there?
I think it's very spread out. There's, but I'm also not sure. Me personally, I'm either on my own or close with our community here at Błękitny Klucz, but I know that there's many points all over. I'm not sure. Maybe Waffer can speak a little bit to it as well on the chat if they connect on any other platform. But I get a feeling that there are smaller communities, but they are very active now, and a lot. The OSR trend brought a lot of old school fans to do modules and mini games. Lots of one-pager RPGs, so just like trying out and experimenting with stuff. But I get a feeling that we are, lots of games don't get played enough, so they are just like exercises in game design. But for sure, it's quite vibrant. I would say we had a long period of silence somewhere. I don't know, 2005, till 2015 maybe. And nothing much happened, but these days there's quite a lot happening. And Waffer says very dispersed, many lone authors and only a few groups, communities like Fireball, Dobre Rzuty, Błękitny Klucz. So yeah, dispersed is also my feeling about it. You mentioned on Wednesday that it's important to have your brainstorming structured. Do you have any tools or ways to do that you use to organize your train of thought, and maybe something that can be treated as advice for game designers?
Well, I don't. Was the context like brainstorming while you play or brainstorming while you design?
I think while you design.
Yeah. I think focused would be maybe a better word. You should design for play, which sounds stupidly obvious and kind of meaningless to say, but you really should design for play. At least that's my instinct. Design something to make it as playable as possible, play it out, see if it works, see if it's fun. But other than that, I don't know why I said you have to be focused with your brainstorming. Yeah, did I say that?
But do you take a lot of notes, or does Figma help you with to keep things together? Maybe if you approach it from this side.
So what I do, I'll take notes quickly before I remember. So while we play, I'll just write stuff down on paper. If I'm on the bus, I'll sit on my phone and just write it. I have like several documents of notes for different games. And then when I come home, if I have time, which I have, then I go through the notes and just, it's all the to-do list. I used to hate having to-do lists. I found them like overwhelming. But then my ADHD diagnosis and the medication is helping so much in just keeping the focus and being able to churn things off. So mostly a to-do list is just something I look forward to if it's a fun thing for some games. Yeah.
And guys are asking about your novels. Can you say a few words about those?
My novels, yeah, I think they sold like 40 or 50 each. So I wrote one now a year ago, which is probably the best novel I've written, and nobody wants to buy it. Like I was trying Norwegian publishers, absolutely nothing. I just get these standard replies where you don't even know if they read it, So I'm glad you liked it, Cub. Yeah, but then
Have you considered self-publishing?
Yeah, I did self-publish back in the day, but then I found out that without promotion, it's kind of pointless. And I wasn't very good at doing promotion. I would do it differently now. But then I'm also like a little addicted to the quick feedback loop, right? So it's sitting and writing by yourself. It's a bit like climbing a mountain by yourself. You do it, and it's a struggle, and it takes discipline, and you just enjoy getting to the top and be like, yes, I made it. That's good. But then playing role-playing games with my friends is it's more fun, It's as simple as that. So when I design a new game, I can try it out in a week or two, and then get instant feedback on does it work, doesn't it? And then based on that feedback, I will be inspired to work more on it, because if it doesn't work, I want to fix it, and if it does work, then it works, and I want to play it. So it's that really. For me, it actually is addictive in a sense to keep playtesting and keep designing.
Is
So
there
if
a
I
way
could
to
have,
write a novel like that to get this shorter feedback loop?
yeah, I wish, right? Because people have these writing communities and read and write each other's stuff. So I've been thinking about joining something like that. But to be honest, right now these games are my absolute main focus. So I kind of want to. What I would love is to get one of them finished and published, because then I could have peace of mind to do something else as well. But right now, I don't think I have the brain space to start like a novel next to all this.
Have you thought about like if the themes of the games are risky, and the responses from the publishers are maybe not too hopeful about the success of them? Have you thought about making like a system framework out of it, system reference document, that you do the scene cards, you do the drama cards, this is how we operate, stick a theme on it, add some elements for the specific for the theme, but like a framework like Archipelago was a general game or a point of reference where you actually make your own. Do the new games would they work as a like a system thingy instead of a specific game about specific stories?
Yeah, they definitely would. They are very easy to skin. A friend of mine is making a game called Andre Soler, which is science fiction, other suns basically. And I made a skin of his setting very quickly, and we played it, and it was fun and worked. So it's quite portable. I don't have like I think it's mostly I don't have a personal incentive or reason or interest in making an SRD, right? It sounds like a lot of work just to make a dry document, and other people can make fun stuff with it. I want to make the fun stuff. Is that, but also I have to be honest, like I'm a little obsessive about this idea because I really find that like I've stumbled on / made something that really works for me and my people. So I do want the credit for it. I think I like I would be very happy to see to do something like that after at least I have one game with my name on it that people know, okay, this is his idea. On the other hand, I sincerely hope people hack it just from this moment on. So if anyone wants to use these ideas, just do it. Go for it. I'd be happy if you send me a shout out, but I do like hacks, or versions or better remakes or whatever.
Cool. I think there are some people here that I think already got the spark and might be already thinking, yeah, this is a really good idea. Well, I will for sure shoot you a holler if anybody tries to fiddle with it.
Yeah, because what I want now, I just wanted to, I would like to get an external publisher to do this stuff, but then it's a long process, it's uncertain. So I have been thinking about self-publishing. What I'm doing, the reason I'm doing this online thing now is mostly to try it out, but also to maybe create some buzz, because if I can get people to play it online for free, people talk about it, it's easier to test ideas that way and get them to spread. But then for the online version, I'm thinking probably to go for Sakaliba and do that online, because it is probably my favorite game of these, so it's kind of hard to say. But it also sticks out. It's much more like my very, very own thing instead of like me modding Lovecraft, So yeah, and also if the publishers don't like it, I will prove them wrong, and I'll make it.
Wouldn't that be nice, right?
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all questions from the chat. But thank you very much for your time, Matthijs. All these games, yeah, I must say, look quite inspiring, and I wait for the opportunity to play them online, play them live, and if you have any updates that you would like to share, I'm gonna ping you in our brand new English chat, and if you want to drop in and say hi, feel free. We'd be looking forward to hear from you. So yeah, keep us updated. We'll also check your blog if there are any new updates, and yeah, we'll also let you know if anything happens, any new hacks, any Archipelago news on our end. And it's been really lovely to have you here with us. Really cool stuff.
Thank you so much for organizing and inviting. And if anyone wants to reach out and get in touch, just do it. I'm quite approachable.
Super cool. Thank you. Have a nice Sunday, everybody, and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.